what's been happening in the world of football?
Oh, it's been a bit of an international break, and I think we all know they're not the most exciting part of it all. I mean, been a bit disappointing from the weekend with Bafana. Very much the term's been thrown around called what's it, bittersweet. A nice win, but unfortunately it wasn't enough to take us through. But I think there's some good positive signs, and you and Sean touched on it earlier in the show that especially listening to Gordon, there is a plan, and I was actually while you guys are talking about it, I was actually thinking, isn't it nice to have two sort of coaches or head coaches um, so passionate about their national teams. I mean, I think Heineken Meyer is one, and you can clearly see him abusing the poor walkie-talkie in the box. Um, and Gordon, when he talks about the country and he talks about the sport, I mean, there's passion you can hear and you can feel it. So,
Such a good
yeah,
point, Keegan. Such a good
True.
point, and it's actually so essential that these guys do feed off each other because I remember going to a sports conference last year, and it was the CEOs of all the unions of the cricket, rugby, and football, and they were just saying how like obviously rugby has it right in a certain thing, cricket has it good here, football's kind of in the middle. It doesn't really back then it didn't really have it good anyway. But it's so true. These guys, it's tough jobs. They really are tough jobs. Huge pressure, huge responsibility, and I think it's so good to see it. I mean, it's so reassuring for fans as well.
Totally. From my side, it's the first time in a while that I've probably seen a South African football coach so passionate about the job. I mean, I think the last one for me personally was I felt this passion when Clive Barker was in charge, um, and it's if you think about it, that's quite a while ago. I mean, back in '96. So it's slow. It's going to be a slow process and slow steps, but you know. There is you can see this progression. I know the fans are on his back. Some you'll always get the fans saying, "Yeah, but his mandate was this, and he didn't sort of follow his mandate, and he should go." But Safa would be completely silly to let the man go and not give him an extension after 2014.
I hate the fact that this talk is even on the table with him. Like from whatever source it comes from. I hate that it's even on the table, especially for an event like. I mean, they won 4-1 on the weekend. I mean, they won this game. Qualifying was out of their hands. Now you're trying to tell me if the Central African Republic scored a goal at the end, Igesund would have been a hero, and it's ridiculous.
I like to call it the fickle PSL fans. Like it's very much like that, Sean. Unfortunately, that's the pressure of football in this country. If you're the national coach, I was actually chatting to a few followers yesterday, and they're very much great opinions, thinking the biggest stigma and the biggest problem we have in this country is everyone has an agenda against someone else. A national coach always has, oh, he's favoriting Pirates players, or he's favoriting Chiefs players, or Sundowns players, and they still haven't got past the fact that a national team is about everyone. Okay, and it's about everyone having to be on the same page and for a goal towards the end. And it's not about satisfying the Pirates fans or the Chiefs fans or the Sundowns fans. And sadly, that's still in football. I mean, imagine. I know we like to have a dig on Twitter about when there's so many Bulls or so many Stormers players in the Springbok side, but it's not taken to that extent. And unfortunately, South African football, it is still taken to that extent.
Well, so looking at South
Sorry, Keegan.
Africa's
I had a
qualification,
question and it escaped me.
yeah, he threw me a real dummy there, not for the first time. So South Africa's qualifying. We've touched on it before how the African qualifying is working for the World Cup because, of course, people forget amidst all this hoopla, this wasn't just making the World Cup final itself, the World Cup finals itself. It's to make the next round. 10 African countries qualified for the next round where they will play for each other and 5 will qualify. So of the 10 that came through, any shocks for you?
Not too many. I thought I expected most of them. Cape Verde probably won. You know, small, very, very small island. If you look at their population compared to ours, I mean, we should definitely be up there. But they've got a crop of players that are playing in Europe and they're doing well. And when they come back to play for the national side, they're doing the job. Listen, like you said, wasn't even a guarantee that we were going to make it to the World Cup. We would have been unseeded, meaning we probably would have drawn someone like a Nigeria or a Cameroon or even the Ivory Coast.
Oh, sorry. So, this next draw is seeded. It's not just.
It is seeded,
Okay.
so we would have got a tough draw, no doubt. And And if you look at ourselves compared to Nigeria, even in that friendly, and that we are still off the mark. So, you know, the sort of Gordon, this, you know, all the chatter around the coach and that, it was probably going to come back after the next round, because to be honest, if we go to Nigeria or Ivory Coast, I don't think we would have made it through.
No, I think that's fair enough. What is it? I mean, it's one of those things. I think there's 54 unions that play football in Africa and 56 in Europe, and there are 5 that get to the World Cup out of Africa, and I think there's 16 that come out of Europe.
Look, it's crazy.
Do not think that is
as
fair.
they always say in Miss World, it's an achievement just to be here.
Very much so, very much so. It'll be nice once, you know, but it's African football needs to improve to get more spots in the World Cup. That, you know, if African football improves, I'm pretty sure we'll get more spots and we'll see more African teams in the World Cup. But to be fair, not even we take 5 or 6 to the World Cup, and how many actually do, well, sorry, goes about and does the business when they're over there. I mean, every year it's a different African nation. You know, Ghana's probably been the one flying the flag for the past 2 World Cups. But you look at years before that, then there was Senegal, and you know, years before that there was the Cameroons. So
it's a lot of one-hit wonders in the next round, guys that didn't kick on to the next tournament.
Very much, and you know, African football needs to improve, and once it improves, I'm pretty sure that more slots will open up for them for the World Cup.
The first goal collectively should be we should get at least 2 teams into the next round of 16, because for the moment there's always only been 1.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have a year in the quarterfinals, sometimes in the last 16.
Definitely agree with you on that one.
Tough times. So, Keegan, just where to now as far as Bafana? Is it just sort of biding our time until we can get next opportunities, or do you think it's a bit rough just to kind of keep thinking about World Cups and African Cup of Nations and kind of stuff? Is there enough interest in, like, month to month with Bafana, and that we can focus on these things more?
To be honest with you, Ben, for me, I think we need to now start building for I think it's 2018, and you know, the work needs to start today already. I mean, we've got a friendly game against Zimbabwe tonight, and the one way Bafana is going to go forward is we need youth structures in football in this country. We need an under-17 team. We need an under-21 or under-23 team. Things that rugby has, which football doesn't have. And, you know, our youngsters, when you go watch the baby box or the under-19s or whatever, you know, they're playing international rugby from a young age already. And our football players aren't, and they're not doing it on a regular basis. And that's where we're falling behind. If you look at Europe, I mean, they have an under-21 World Cup, and World Cup, European Championships. You know, they're doing busy World Cup qualifiers, all these things. You never hear of a South African under-21 side trying to qualify for these competitions. And for us to get stronger down the line, that needs to start being rolled out. Otherwise, we're just going to fall further and further behind. There's no point in us getting an under-23 side in 2 years before Olympic Games, try and qualify, and if we don't make it, team gets scrapped. And that's been happening for the past few years. That under-20 side needs to keep playing together, keep trying to build and mold themselves, so even if they don't qualify for a competition, they're able to be pulled up into the national squad sometime along or somewhere along their careers, and then they sort of have that little bit of an international experience along the way.
Yeah, but it's a process, and I think it's also like a culture that we need to get ingrained. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to tell you, sure, it's already set, but it's just understanding that it takes a hell of a long time, especially in football, to get a side that's actually going to compete and compete properly. Because all us fans want is we want to know that when we go into games, there's at least a chance we're going to win something, or at least a chance we're going to take it to the next level. And you know, all this, I think, got to stick with Gordon. Got to actually just go with this sort of single-minded attitude towards faith in players, building along, and just doing the best we can from there.
I totally agree with you. I mean, consistency is something that we've struggled with in South African football. And when I say consistency, I mean consistency all over the place. It starts with management, even in SAFA, and it works its way all the way down to the field. You know, it's for the first time, and I was also chatting to people on Twitter yesterday about this, you know, it's the first time I feel that we actually have a pool of players that we can pull from. Now, that's taken Gordon how many months to do that? Now, imagine if you give him 2 or 3 years, what he can do.
Exactly.
Now, but the problem is, it's only happening from Gordon down. SAFA needs to sort itself out as well. I mean, if it's someone new that's coming in from the top, he needs to be the right guy first, and he needs to be the guy who's going to be backed for the next 5 years to say, you're going to take our football here. Not a guy who's going to be sitting there and filling up his pockets, which has unfortunately been happening at this point in time.
Yeah.
And that's where football has it wrong. And I think that's where, okay, I would almost said cricket here, but we know what happened around there. But I think that's where at least rugby's getting it right. When there's someone taking over, there is, there might be a sort of a bit of a twist where we're not too sure if he's the right man, but at least there's a plan always for 3-4 years on where he wants to take rugby. And football needs that.
Exactly. Okay, I think you've hit a lot of nails on a lot of heads there. But just, to wrap it up, again, I totally recommend, if you go into BLOGZ, there's a chat there with Gordon Igesund they did yesterday with Darren in the afternoon team. It's just touching on this consistency thing. It's actually been quite a big buzzword in the show today, Sean. Consistency and performance and getting things right. And have a plan, stick to a plan, because we're never ever going to beat a European team. We're never ever going to get into World Cups unless we have a plan, because soccer's hectic.
A lot of the time with sports, if you have passion and you have sense, that is just the simplest platform where a lot of good things happen. It really is that simple sometimes.
Completely. Keegan, you have both, and what's happening on the pundits at the moment?
Well, it's been quite quiet this week actually, but we've got our player ratings out for the test that came past. The Springbok Test, Frans has got his ratings out. I put a little post up this morning about Football Unite's. Pretty sure, I don't know if you know Stelian Petrov. Last year he got diagnosed with cancer. He had leukemia. They had a football match for him this weekend, and it was absolutely unbelievable at Celtic Park. Do yourself a favor and go and watch the clip. It's extremely moving. The reception he gets and the crowd singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" to him. It's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, along the week we'll keep building up for the Premiership games that are coming up this weekend, and the PSL's back.
Okay, nice. Cool. We'll go on to the pundits.co.za and then follow Keegan on the Twitter at Keegan, Keegan, Kruger, Kruger. Keegan, we must always appeal to people who might not be able to spell so good or just listen in clearly. Keegan, thanks so much. We'll obviously be back next week. A bit more actual action as far as playing action to talk about. But again, thanks so much for your thoughts on Bafana. And I do think there is light at the end of this tunnel. And I think we all just got to believe around it and just back one guy to do it. We've got a captain of a ship here, and he must be, stay at the helm.
Definitely.
Cool.